Well, good afternoon. Walton County Sheriff Mike Adkinson here. This is the Sheriff Live. I'm here with my trusty Public Information Officer, Ms. Corey DeBridnia, and this is our opportunity for me to talk to my bosses, citizens of Walton County, and just engage into what we call a open town hall. How about that? And so, first off, if you don't know where Walton County, Florida is, let me tell you real quickly. We're halfway between Pensacola and Tallahassee, and we run from the Alabama line to the Gulf of Mexico. About as a diverse community as you want to be able to see, and it's a great place to live and work. The Walton County Sheriff's Office is a little unique in that we are a full-service public safety agency. We are traditional sheriff law enforcement operations. We are the county jail. We are 911 communications, we are animal control, animal services, and we are fire and medical EMS and air medical. So we do a little bit of everything here, which is a good thing. It's a good opportunity to serve our citizens. The way this works is I don't see the questions when they come in, so you guys can type in a question. If you have something you want to know, shoot it in. Ms. Corey will send it to me. Give her a second to get them typed in. It takes a second. And try to provide a little context if you're asking about something specifically, and we'll try and answer it. Doesn't have to be about Walton County. We'll answer pretty much anything that we can. What I always say is I don't always guarantee you a right answer. I guarantee you're going to get some kind of answer. It may or may not be an answer you like, so there's that too. But a lot's been going on. It's been a hot minute since we've been on, but we want to try and do this and just get back and be in touch with the people that we serve. So, Mr. Bridnia, anything of interest this morning coming in?
Yes, so we have a question from YouTube. It's from Dobbs, and it says, how do you feel about the Charlie Kirk assassination?
It's disgusting. It's sad. It's really, it's just disgusting. I don't know what else to say about it. It's very sad. It's very, it's a visceral thing because it's obviously on video, and I hate that his family again and again has to see that again and again and have to see it every day for years. And, I just have tremendous sympathy, not only for the victim and whether that was Charlie Kirk or anyone else, that it happens horrible enough. The fact that the family has to see it on top of it's terrible, really, really terrible. And it's just a sad statement to what humanity is capable of. I want to make a comment about what the motives were, because I don't know anything. I have no knowledge of it whatsoever, and anything you did past that would be some type of assumption. So I think we just have to wait, and then, hopefully they're going to bring somebody to justice here quickly, and then we'll figure out what that is, what rationale. I can tell you it won't make any sense when you hear it. Whatever it is will be ridiculous, and it won't be worth a man's life, and certainly a father with two small children that his children have to see that, and it's just something we deal with all too often.
And we were recording a podcast before this talking about a shooting that happened in Walton County back in 2009. And I think, we were talking about what makes these incidents so extremely difficult is that we try to assign reason, and there's not any.
Well, taking someone's life is the antithesis of human nature, right? That's just not what we're about, regardless of, how we posture sometimes. And so when things happen that don't make sense, that don't fit into a randomness, where there's, in the case where the victims, we talked about there's no awareness of what even happened, what's going on. As Corey mentioned, we're actually just recorded a podcast before we went live now about the mass shooting of Chilean exchange students here in Miramar Beach in 2009. And I would dare say you that the vast majority of people that live in this county does not know there was a mass shooting. It is never going to make sense, and I think that's one of the things just with the Kirk assassination or Kirk murder. I can't make it make sense. But I don't want to assign some type of motive to it because you just don't know anything.
Yeah. I think that's really difficult. Eileen O'Sullivan's asking where the Charlie Kirk vigil is tomorrow. I'm not sure, Eileen, and I'm not sure if you're talking about one in Walton County or if you're talking about in general. So
yeah, I'm not just not familiar.
The next question from Chris Haywood is, You guys are phenomenal with this amount of openness. Oh, he's giving us a compliment.
Oh, we'll
just
take that.
complimenting us. Sam Dunaway, open carry court ruling. And Jeremy Barnes says, what's the department's stance on open carry after the Supreme Court decision? There's Jimmy Harrison, same question. Justin Simmons, great question. Same question. Steve Menschel, they all want to know, where do you stand when it becomes to this ruling on open carry, and they want to know your thoughts on it moving forward.
So, I mean, this is kind of one of those things where, and I said this to Corey when some people called about it yesterday, makes zero concern what my personal feelings about it are. It's the law. Our obligation is to follow the law as it's written. It was actually a district appeals court, I think, that ruled that wasn't the Supreme Court. It was an appeals court that said that Florida's ban on open carry is unconstitutional. It lists the reasons out for that. So kind of the way I view that immediately is we sent out an order yesterday to our deputies to suspend making arrest for open carry. Because as I understand it, that's now the law. I mean, that is going to be the law. I don't anticipate that changing minus some legislative change. So from my standpoint, that seems to be the law of the land in the state of Florida. But we went ahead, anytime there's a ruling or a law is found unconstitutional, there's a period of time until that order is filed that it becomes the actual law. However, this is strong enough, the wording strong enough that we're not going to take action and arrest somebody in the meantime on it. So for all practical purposes, that just became the law of the land in the state of Florida. And I'm not being I want to go back to something. I'm not being cute about how I feel about it. It just doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. I think there's some things that we're going to have to get worked out, and people are going to struggle with understanding some of it. It's in many other states that really, if I'm being honest, don't seem to have too much of a problem with it. So hopefully that will be the case here. Invariably, there will be some jackwagon that wants to wear 2 ARs to try and go in Disney World. So there's going to be people that will try and make an exception to it, but the law is the law, and it doesn't care how I feel about it. It needs to be enforced.
Yeah. So moving forward,
Yeah. Well, again, I'll circle back that we've suspended making arrest for open carry at this point. Now, people need to understand there are rules where the place you cannot carry your firearm, open carry or not. It's really the same ones that applied to concealed carry. Things like banks, schools, judicial centers, things like that. Anything that is private property, a private property owner can make a decision for you not to enter arms. So keep in mind, private property has certain rights to it as well. So
yeah. Okay. A lot of the questions that we're getting asked right now are that they're about open carry and your position on it. And I think people are very passionate about this. Sure. Emily is asking, what are your thoughts on ex-felons who got their rights back to carry now?
So there's a little bit to that. I want to be careful because I don't want to mislead somebody or give them the wrong information. You can have a restoration of all your rights, some of them, and not have your gun right restored. So you need to make sure if you're an ex-felon and there has been a restoration of rights that they restored the right to bear firearms. They do not automatically do that. And I think sometimes that's a little confusing for people. So like the right to vote can be restored, but your right to bear arms may not be restored. So you need to make sure that if your rights restored, did it implicitly include the right to bear arms? And that's typically only done, that's a very intentional thing. You should know that. So just because you got the right to vote back or you had your felony expunged, or whatever, rights restored, it's not necessarily always that one. You need to make sure that one's done as well.
Yeah. Jeremy Barnes wants to know, how does this new judgment apply to local police departments, and do they still have the right to enforce it in their jurisdiction?
No, I don't think so at all. I think it is the law in the state of Florida. The way I read this now, I was reaching out to some folks from the state's attorney's office. I think we're all kind of on the same page, waiting on the final. But an individual police department or sheriff's office cannot decide that they're going to supersede the law of the land in the state of Florida and start making arrests on it. So, yeah, I guess my point is they could be the most rabid in favor of open carry or against open carry. It doesn't matter. You have to follow the law.
Yeah. Shane Whitlow is asking, explain why you are letting people with restraining orders with many violations and serious active warrants keep running around. Shane, a very broad question.
I don't think it could get any broader. So just the short, easy version of that, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I will say this, we don't allow anyone with warrants to run around. So if you know where they're at, go ahead and, as they say in the colloquialisms, drop a dime on them. You can call, be anonymous and say where they're at, and we'll send somebody over to take care of it. But we don't let people run around with warrants, and certainly not violate restraining orders.
And again, lots of people just chiming in. AJ Smith says, great agency with excellent leadership. Keep up the great work.
That's my man right there.
Ken Johnson, I'm from Walton County. What is this? I accidentally clicked on it. Is this live? I love our police and firefighters and watch closely to our teachers.
It is live.
They all need to get paid more. We need to have a Charlie Kirk vigil. Please remember, half these kids just saw him, get killed. And he brings up a great point that they're watching it on social media.
Yeah,
they're watching it on multiple platforms. And I'm bringing this up again about how we recorded a podcast before this. That mass shooting of those Chilean students happened in 2009. Yeah. It was only 16 years ago, but social media was not that big back then.
It was in its infancy. I think MySpace was around at the time. Facebook maybe had just started during that time.
So talk about how, and the main reason that we wanted to focus on that case in the podcast was talking about how quickly people forget.
Yeah, I mean,
and they move on so quickly.
I would say the majority of people watching this now did not know there was a mass shooting in Miramar Beach where 5 people were shot and a couple killed. This situation that happened this week, whether, with Charlie Kirk, it's so visceral and you're seeing it in multiple different video angles of it, slow motion. I am so not in favor of that for multiple reasons. And I think after 33 years in this business, I get tired of seeing people's misery, and other people see it differently because they're watching a video. And it also has this desensitizing value to it. We tend to not realize that's a real man, real family. You start focusing on what your political beliefs are, what your, how you felt about, and you forget that this is a human being, regardless of what, how you feel about any of that. And to see it again and again and again, I understand that legally you can do this. What I say to you, there used to be a thing called decorum. There was a way just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. And somebody said, well, you're being judgy. And maybe I am. There was a time that there were certain things were not considered appropriate, and we self-policed. We as a society, as a tribe of people, said this is what our community is about. This is, this is not acceptable. This is or is not acceptable. I don't think we have a sense of community anymore. And I think when you see things like the Kirk murder and you get to see it again, it so desensitizes people that it just becomes a chip in whatever camp you're in to make points, and it's very sad to me. But he actually makes a really interesting point too. Don't forget the people that were live that saw that, and the effect that will have on those largely kids. I say kids; they're in their 20s.
On the college campus,
it's going to have an effect. It's going to have an effect.
Yeah,
for sure it will.
This is a great question from Carrie Robinson. Can you elaborate on the new services you all are offering in the home with your healthcare team, teaming up with Walton County Fire Rescue and FSU's
School of Medicine?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And can you talk about that a little bit? Who do we call to get their number? Thank you for your services. Carrie, I will say this before Sheriff answers you. If you go on our website, waltonso.org, and you drop down under community programs, you will see our community health program. And there is a form where you can basically refer people or recommend people for those services. And that is a partnership between us and
FSU School of Medicine
and Walton County, basically under the Florida Department of Health has a health coalition that we've kind of partnered with. And talk about a little bit why you wanted to bring doctors back home. Why did you want to bring those visits back home?
I mean, I think there's so much positive, so much upside of this. That our nurses that work in that program too, and it started really with our paramedicine program. That was kind of the thought process. But let me give you an example of where this kind of thing, where it really makes sense. So let's say that you have a chronic illness or a chronic condition, and I'm going to make something up for the sake of argument. Let's say that you have a loved one who is elderly, they're non-ambulatory. In other words, they can't get around, they can't move, and maybe they have a catheter, and their catheter slips out. In the past, what was happening is we were having to take an ambulance offline and take that person to the hospital. Well, first of all, it's hard on the patient.
Yeah.
Second of all, it takes an ambulance offline. There's only a certain number of ambulances in the county at any one time. Now, in partnering with them, we can go doing things like under a doctor's supervision. There's certain things that we can do there on scene so that the ambulance can be reserved for true emergencies. That's a big deal. It really can make a difference in a patient's life, the quality of care, and quite frankly, it's cost saving to the public, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's just a much higher degree of care. There's not a lot of places doing this. I'm super proud of the men and women that are doing this, are engaged in it. It's just another level of service that I think is it's unique, and I'm glad that we're a chance to kind of lead the way on this.
And I got to go out with the doctors from FSU and Ariana and Derek from the Walton County Fire Rescue side last Friday as they visited a patient. And it really is like old school when a doctor would come to your home for a visit, and watching the interaction between Josh and Helen, the doctors, and the patient, and Derek and Ariana, it really does bring us back full circle to bringing healthcare back home.
And listen, and this is outside the sheriff's office, but I'll give you an example of the kind of people we like to be associated with. I can remember during COVID, we were talking about seeing Dr. Howell, which is a local physician, and he's also the sheriff's office main doctor, going out and making a house call during COVID and putting on his Tyvek suit and going to see somebody with a little doctor bag. I think that's a unique thing this community does. I think it's a unique opportunity. By the way, I actually think it makes really good business sense. I think it really, really does. And when you partner that with, that kind of chronic care, we've got, the hospital now in Defuniak. We've got this air ambulance. So all of these are just a continuum of care, whatever it takes to improve the situation.
Yeah. And when he says air ambulance, he's talking about Walton Air Rescue.
Walton Air Rescue.
Which is currently operated as a partnership between us and Air Methods under the sheriff's office. And they serve basically us and surrounding counties.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
One of the busiest in the state.
It's very, very, I think when we looked at this, we were thinking if it was 30 some odd calls, I think it was 30, 31 calls a month, we said, okay, this is going to make sense. I think they're doing the mid 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Bumping 50
Exceeding
now. So
that, yeah.
The need is really was way more than we even anticipated to start with.
Okay. Josh Appleberg Mosley, do we need a permit to open carry?
No.
Talk a little bit about, where did we just come from with this? Florida was actually under constitutional carry.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Correct. And that was a term that was misleading to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
They thought that meant open carries. So Florida, previous to this ruling, had permitless carry. In other words, permitless concealed carry. So you could carry, assuming your rights are completely in order and you're of sound mind, you could carry a firearm concealed without a permit. But you could not carry it in open display. The court has ruled that that was an obtrusive obstruction to firearm freedom based on the Second Amendment, and said that they struck that ban down. So now you can have permitless open carry. Yeah.
Okay.
So
but
open or concealed, you can carry in Florida
and you don't have to have
without permit, assuming you are legally allowed to possess that weapon. But I want to reiterate, there are places you cannot go with a firearm. So don't roll up in the sheriff's office with it. Don't try to go to school with it strapped on. Don't. So.
Sorry, just a couple of comments. Stephen Sanders says Captain Wheatley is the bomb. Chris Henderson said, Sheriff Adkinson, in the past, your agency has offered concealed weapons classes. Will the agency offer a class covering open carry? We have a basic and advanced civilian firearms course that's offered at the sheriff's office. In fact, we got an email today about this, and I think that in the future we're going to create some more classes and we'll post those on the website, and we end up making Facebook events.
Yeah, and it's for me, a lot of this may become about familiarity and then understand the legal ramifications, whether it's open or concealed, because there are people still going to carry concealed, right? Most people are not going to strap a gun out in public display. And I would say to the public, we're going to get a lot of calls about this to start with. I understand that. People are going to see somebody walking in around with a gun. And go, what's going on here? But we'll work through that, and we're going to manage that.
Rachel Bishop, what is the best area of Walton County that you would recommend for a family to move in terms of safety and low crime?
So I think Walton County, I can tell you pretty unequivocally, Walton is a very safe community. And I think it really depends what fits your needs, what your family likes, what lifestyle you're looking for, because I think it is a really diverse community from a standpoint of the environment, right? So you can be extremely rural. If you're in the northern end of the county, you've a lot of farmland and things of that nature. You could have that small town vibe, that is, Defuniak Springs has a really unique downtown area. Then you have a place like Freeport that's kind of an emerging, it's new and a lot of new stuff going on there. Paxton is literally, I think of it as a farming community. Quintessential farming community. You got that? And I'm just picking the cities right now. And then south of the bay is that coastal, you have about 14 communities that really are a little different too. They're beachy, but they all have their unique flavor to it. So I think there's a lot of great places in Walton County. I've lived in a couple of different ones. I like them all, and I could sell you on any one of them. So what I would say is come and just take the time and look around. But as far as being safe, it's a really safe environment. Not going to tell you it's perfect, because it's not. Every place has crime, every place has issues. But the one thing I always say is, I chose to live here. I didn't have to live here. I could go to work somewhere else, could have done other things, but I chose to make my life here. And, I think that's the best endorsement I can give for it. So.
Yeah. Dustin Thames is asking if you think Charlie Kirk is a martyr.
That is that's kind of a loaded term, right? I'm going to have to think on that. My first blush would be to say no, right? But that's a very personalized statement for people. It's how you view that.
Yeah, and it's kind of what you define as a martyr.
Yeah, and you also would have to know the motivation of the person. What was that reason? I think we all make an assumption about why he was killed, right? But there's always, I've been in this long enough to know that as soon as I say this is why it happened, in the absence of the fact, it'll be something I never thought of. So yeah. I just would probably hold that statement of assigning that, because I just don't know. I tell you this, he's certainly the victim of a tragedy. It's disgusting to me. It really is. The whole thing, to know that his wife and children have to watch that video again and again so people can virtue signal, because that's what it is, and say, look at me, click my website, I loved him, I hated him, or whatever that is. 10 years from now, when it's just old view, or a year from now, it's still going to be their father, it's still going to be her husband, that people will put up and watch for their own personal benefit. And I can't get there. I don't like that. I'm not trying to be judgy of all of you, but this is just the way I feel about it.
And to be fair, I've always
been that way.
You've always said that. Even when we've discussed body cameras.
I don't like it.
You don't
like it. I don't like it.
Because you don't like other people being able to witness and make
other people's misery should not be used to bring enjoyment to people. I get it. People love it. I understand that. It just is way too real for me. So I don't.
So John Hinson, hi John.
Hey.
He said, we also had a shooting at the college around the same time in 2009.
We did. We had a murder of a gentleman who was actually the suspect killed the wrong person. He was trying to shoot someone else and ran up and shot a gentleman and murdered him on Northwest Florida State College, the Defuniak Springs branch. And it was right there at the same time. Sure was, and again, did not even kill the person he intended to. Madness. That person ended up being in a shootout with the U.S. Marshals Task Force, and was transferred back here to Walton County. This is the kind of thing, just a segue to that people don't think about. But, that guy probably cost us $500,000 in medical fees that the sheriff's office had to pay for him. Just crazy. The suspect, who I think he was ultimately sentenced to death in that case. So, he's still not dead, but he was sentenced to death.
John Harrison, please forgive me if you've discussed this before. My question is, who owns and pays for the traffic tag readers? Who has access to the information? Thank you. Always thanks for the new help with the Country Club Drive situation. He is addressing a specific deputy has been great. Talk about he's calling it a tag reader.
Yeah, you saw the flock cameras.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're owned by a private company. We essentially, we buy the hardware, so the software is reoccurring use. Who has limited to that data is restricted to law enforcement uses only. So, and there's, I think in the, I was trying to think how many there are now. There's quite a few.
And we're still getting.
We're trying to expand. We're trying to expand those, and they make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Because
they do more than read tags. So you're talking about read tags. It actually does quite a bit more than that, which is important.
Yeah, and talk about there's people in the community that are obviously vehemently opposed to anything like that.
Yeah, I wasn't in favor.
I was actually going to bring that up.
Yeah, I wasn't in favor.
You didn't like them.
No, I don't like them. I don't like them.
So why do you feel like you've had maybe not a change of heart, but you've?
So the law is pretty clear. There's not a reasonable expectation of privacy in a public place, right? At a public roadway, and if I'm just being blunt, their effectiveness is so good in public places that I couldn't look at a parent or a victim's relatives and know that all I had to do. That I didn't do everything I could have within the law to try and make it work, and it simply it works. I have this real issue. I'm very much a privacy advocate, but with the restrictions we put on, which they're only in public places, that got me there. I could get there with that. I still believe that you have a right to privacy. Now, understand, you're talking about somebody. I don't think you should go and be able to read people's divorce settlements. I don't think it's any of your business.
But you can.
You can. So I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just ask yourself why. Why do you need to know that? Well, it's just not your business. There used to be a time that you would have enough decency not to do that. But hey, look, I'm wrong every day, and we all can disagree with me about it. I just very big on this idea of that you are entitled to a certain bit of privacy in your life.
Todd Martin is asking about the new ruling on open carry again, and we're happy to address this throughout. But,
we've answered this actually a couple times, Todd. But just the short version is that's the new law. We've suspended arrest on open carry at this point. The District Court of Appeals has made appeals court has made their ruling saying that the ban on open carry is unconstitutional. So to me, that's pretty cut and dry. I mean, that's pretty much the way it is.
Troy Dibble, was FHP doing immigration operations on 331 today?
Don't know about that specifically, but I probably wouldn't comment just simply because it would be their operation if they were.
Sorry. And again, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. I have a lot of people making statements, and I'm happy to go back and read them afterwards. But if you have questions, please ask. Sam wants to know: Can we have more police presence in Mossy Head? There's way too much theft going on over here.
Yes, short version. Yes, we're working on that.
Hunter Meyer, thank you for all your hard work. We're having an issue with people running the stop sign at Surf Song Lane and Ellis Road. Golf carts run it, cars run it. I understand you only have so many deputies. Any help is appreciated from the residents on Ellis Road.
Duly noted. This district lieutenant typically, so the county's broken up into 4 districts.
This is a great opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, well, the county's broken district. And so the way this works is I hold them basically responsible for law enforcement activities, community activities inside their specific districts. And so I'll go back to your lieutenant and say, hey, look, you need to check on this, follow up with X, Y, Z, and then report back to me where that's at. So that's kind of the way we try and
I would bet that most of the district lieutenants are watching this.
I would suggest that's a good business practice.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just the same thing we would do with our fire rescue north of the bay. You have battalion chiefs and district chiefs, things that are divided up, that have different responsibilities and where they're at. And I think that's one thing people, animal control, we're north and south of the bay. Fire rescue, we're north of the bay. Law enforcement operation, we're countywide, as well as like the jail or COM. So there's a lot going on, and to keep up with it, you have to have this delegation of responsibility, and that's what we try and do.
But going back to the question earlier about where should you live in Walton County that's safe to raise a family, I think that it's a unique opportunity for us to have all public safety under one roof.
Oh yeah, no, I like
north
that a
of
lot.
the bay.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Now, there's still a police department in Phoenix Springs, so
yes.
But we have a great working relationship with those guys.
Yeah.
I talk to the chief pretty regularly, and all that's pretty good. We have a good relationship with South Walton Fire District, which handles fire EMS south of the bay. Mm-hmm. So all of those are about partnerships and working together where you can, and providing a quality level of service, which I think we do.
Jennifer Lopez, how is Walton County Sheriff's cooperating with ICE officials as far as when you get pulled over and you have a valid Florida driver's license or other state license? Is that enough?
Yes.
Or will it be like 2 weeks ago when FHP was pulling people over, even with licenses, having to show your status or immigration?
So you don't have to, if you have a Florida driver's license, that is essentially proof of status. So Florida driver's license are not issued to non-residents. So if you have a Florida driver's license, you're illegally in the country unless that license is no longer valid. So a Florida license is more than enough from that standpoint. In regard to cooperation, we're complying with the law of the state of Florida, and essentially the way that works is if we make an arrest and you're transported to the Walton County Jail by a deputy sheriff, then we have to ascertain your status. And if your status is not a legal U.S. citizen, we will notify ICE. We must notify ICE by law. So,
Corey Godwin touted your community health initiative at the statewide Department of Health leadership meeting. The Surgeon General and his senior leaders were impressed. Expect calls.
That's what we like. And congratulations, Mr. Godwin. He was recently appointed, Governor DeSantis appointed Corey Godwin to the Prison Resource Industries, which is commonly called PRIDE, which is a big honor for somebody from Walton County to be able to do that as well, too. So congratulations to you on that.
Steve Sunday is watching. Hi, Steve. And Tina Odom brings up a great point. Thank you, Tina. She said you can't bring weapons into mental health or substance abuse facilities either.
That's correct. There's a list of places you can look that up. Where are firearms prohibited in Florida? It's polling places, election places, hospitals think you cannot bring weapons into those. And currently a business has the right to say we don't want you to wear a firearm in here. So they can. It's private property. They can ask you to leave.
Yeah. James Meadows has a question, and it's a hypothetical, but I think that it's important to set expectations as a law enforcement agency in certain situations, and that's what he's asking. So if a law-abiding citizen is attacked and they're in fear of their life and they respond with lethal force to protect themselves, what can they expect immediately from law enforcement? Like what's the next?
So I want to answer this as fully and correctly as I can, but I also want to be careful, because I can tell you I can think of at least 4 people off the top of my head that used a firearm to shoot someone else, and they believe they were completely justified, and all 4 of them went to prison, because your fear needs to be justifiable, right? It has to make sense. So in other words, you can't shoot somebody in the back when they're running and go, well, I was in fear. I'm not trying to be facetious, but that's what happens. What will generally happen on any investigation that involves the use of a firearm, somebody hurt, injured, or killed, we're immediately going to detain everybody involved. Right? That's a fact. And then we'll look at what
detain is very different than
that's right. They're different than arrested or being booked in the county jail. We're going to detain, make sure the situation is safe, and then we're going to figure out what is the situation. Remember, you may be 100% telling the truth. I just don't know that just because you told me, right? You come here and you say, well, I was defending myself. I shouldn't be arrested. I don't know that. I don't know anything without witnesses, evidence, and things of that nature. So we would have to determine what's going on. By the same token, you don't make an arrest without witnesses, evidence, things like that. So the short version is what you should expect is for your safety and for the safety of everybody involved, we're going to immediately probably detain, separate from the weapon, try and ascertain what the situation was. If, and I'm going to say for the sake of argument, if it is found that you used deadly force to prevent great bodily harm or injury, death, then you're not going to be charged. That's kind of the short version. And if I know people are going to get into, well, was it stand your ground? Was it castle out? There's a lot of different things, but there are caveats and rules that I don't make. Those are called affirmative defenses. I don't make those for you. I determine simply whether or not there is probable cause on the scene for an arrest. Was this use of force justified right there? Sometimes we wait a day or two to make that decision. Sometimes we have to wait a day or two and say, let's talk to a judge about this and see what their thought is. Is a warrant appropriate? We'll talk to the state's attorney's office. The short version is we're going to gather the information and make a decision there. And is there an imminent threat? Is there an imminent threat? Those are the questions. That's just almost too big of a question to be answered without more specifics. But that's the short version.
Sure.
The broad version, if you will.
Dream Davis, is it still beneficial to keep a current concealed carry permit?
Yeah, a lot of people continue to keep them.
Mine.
Yeah, a lot of people continue to keep them for a couple of reasons. One of them, not every state has the same laws, right? And reciprocity with other states for concealed weapon permits work. There's no reason not to do it. I'd probably, if I had one, I would probably be inclined to keep it if I was going to travel out of state. So yeah, I think there's a reason to keep it.
Okay. Angie Hogobim says she has the perfect kitten picked out for you.
You're fired. There's a conspiracy afoot. Yes.
Joe Burton says, open carry puts you at a tactical disadvantage. It increases the likelihood of violence, can make you a target, increase tensions, confuse law enforcement, and lead to accidents. Those
are all personal decisions individuals are going to make. Right?
Yes, and I want you to talk a little bit about, from a deputy sheriff standpoint, what is your expectation of them going into this new?
I think that's going to be that is obviously going to be a challenge. And if you are open carrying, you have to understand that there's a distinct possibility we're going to secure in the middle of a criminal investigation or some high risk incident. Just because you say, "Hey, it wasn't me," but you're the guy holding a gun, or you have a gun on you. We may detain you temporarily till we figure out what's going on because I can't deal with you and I know there's a visible firearm there and deal with this emerging situation. Doesn't mean you're going to be arrested, but that is a distinct possibility. If I run up and someone is shot, you just happen to be standing there wearing a gun as well too, and you go, "It wasn't me." Maybe 100% true, but you're going to have to give us a minute to work that out, and that may include us handcuffing you, detaining you temporarily until we figure out what's going on. That is just part of the situation we're in, and that is basic safety.
Yeah. Gavin Spain, he's testing us here. Is Crestview a good place to live? Crestview isn't in Walton County, so
Walton.
Sheriff,
I can
be
tell
careful.
Since nobody's voting for me in Crestview, let me just put it to you like this. If I had my choice, I'd be living in Walton County. No disrespect to my friends in Crestview. Maybe a little, but not much.
Carrie Robinson, is there a place South Walton that you can park overnight for certain people who may be living in vehicles?
Tell you what, once you do this, once you email offline, and let's talk about that. We'll get somebody to try and help you out.
Okay. Southern Belle on X wants to know, is there an app where we can get real-time reports of local crime? Just purchased a home in Defuniak. We actually used to have some. This was before my time. I've been at the sheriff's office 10 years, but this was before my time where you guys actually had something where people could do that. The radios have since been encrypted that you can't, and that's an officer safety thing.
Yeah, it is. So, you can't scan our radios is the short version of that. And that is for our safety and the privacy of victims. We would have people calling victims' family members go, "Hey, I heard your cousin broke their leg or in a car." We didn't even have a chance to talk to anybody yet.
Yeah.
So that never made sense to me. That needed to change. As far as, arrest reports, they're all public, or most of them they all become public record, but nothing that's put out immediately, to my knowledge, other than the arrest and booking reports.
Yeah,
Arrest
we
reports
have
on our
the
app.
Walton County Sheriff's Office app.
Yeah.
That you can download. And if there is an incident, and this is kind of the way we look at it, and Sheriff can chime in here, if it impacts public safety at large, and it's an active incident, you're going to get an alert from that app.
Absolutely.
As an example, if we had, I'm bringing it up, and this might be a sore subject, but we had a gentleman on Highway 98, parked off of Highway 98, who was threatening to shoot himself or others with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
And we shut down Highway 98.
Right.
God forbid a bullet gets sprayed and
Yeah.
hits somebody driving by, etc. So we made the choice to shut down Highway 98. Were people pleased? No. But I felt like at that point in time, it was a situation with major public, safety issues, and I put that out through the app. Now, will you get real-time crime reports like when somebody reports a fraud? No, because the public at large is not, the public safety is not in question.
There's no imminent threat.
Right.
If there's no imminent threat or imminent concern, then we're probably not going to put something out right then.
Sure. And
by the way, because we're subject to be wrong, we may call that one thing, and something may come in as a burglary, and people use terms interchangeably. They're not the correct terms, right? They'll say, I was robbed, and what they meant was somebody stole something out of shelf. Robbery, to us, when you say robbery is a gun or the use of force in the commission of this felony, right? Where you're
on a
taking
person.
On a person. Burglary is when you go in somewhere, and that's whether it's occupied or not. They're very different crimes. So you could hear one term because you call it in that way, and that's the way it's reported, but it's really not the same thing.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, I know. I get
many
it.
times.
Yes, no, for sure.
One time being a report of a bear attack that ended up being a bobcat of all things. And so
that was on Eglin.
It was on Eglin.
That was on Eglin by Site C6. Yeah, I remember that.
And I say all that to say, download the app. We put out traffic crash alerts and things like that, where if it impacts a large portion of the population, you'll get an alert. Sean says, literally the best sheriff and team in the state. Much love.
They got some great people here.
Going back down, Tamara Wolf, does it bother you that Walton County was listed as number 2 in Florida in euthanized animals last year?
That's not true. That's not accurate.
Okay.
I'll take the Pepsi challenge on that one.
As she said, are you open to solutions to change that?
Always, but Captain Hogaboom, she's yanking your chain right here. I don't think that's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I would be interested to know where that was listed.
But just let me not be facetious for a second. We're always looking for different ways to do it. So I'm not trying to be super cutesy about that, but that doesn't even remotely sound accurate. Now, Captain come back and say it's accurate, and I'll have to eat my words on that. But we're always looking for opportunities to be better. So yes, if you have some ideas, please email them in. You can the Walton County Animal Shelter, and we will certainly listen to them and talk about them.
And can I just say, and the people who volunteer and work at that shelter do a thankless job in such a
absolutely they do.
It's not a great environment. Let's just face it.
Yeah,
they deal with people turning in their animals, owner surrenders, strays, and really, no, we're definitely always, yes, we're open to solutions, but we also need to understand that as a population, we have a responsibility too.
Yeah, I mean, the goal would be to never euthanize an animal, ever.
Right.
And whatever it takes to get there, that should always be the goal, right?
Yeah, but all of us have a part in it.
Yeah,
everybody in the community has a part in it. And they work very hard there.
I want to know the answer to that now because I popped off about it. Now I want to know. So.
Whitney, will any officers be at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk tomorrow at the chapel on 30A?
I knew nothing about it. I haven't heard any more, but I don't know anything about it.
Things happen very quickly, and just be patient with us because things are literally happening as we're on the air here. Sorry, I'm trying to get through some of the commentary. Jackie Ruthers, who do you call to ask for a traffic light at the Tom Thumb on 83 to help the congestion for school traffic on Walton Road?
So that is a county so that is a state road, right? I would think you can reach out to your county commissioners and see whether or not they maintain. That's Highway 83. That's a state highway. It's probably going to be DOT in their district office. So go ahead and you can go online and go to Florida DOT and look at your district office. It'll pop up, and then submit them an email. They're putting one at 83 and Sunrise Road. One's almost open.
Right there at the Dollar General. Yeah.
I was trying to think if that was a city road, just because Walton Road ran into it right there, but it doesn't. That's going to be FDOT.
Mike Johnson, what are the duties of the traffic unit, and what are the staffing levels?
The duties of traffic units to control traffic inside their individual district, to work primarily toward doing that. So you essentially have one dedicated person doing that in each district, and one that floats. So typically you're running 4 of those folks. Okay. Sometimes you run 5, but it just depends on the circumstances. That also doesn't mean that other people can't be assigned to run traffic. It's just that's what they're primarily working on.
Loretta Martinez, Michael, love what you do, but very upset why I cannot get help getting my $12,000 back from someone who lied about having a license to do work on my house after a fire.
Do me a favor, send it to us. Let me know. I apologize, but I don't know anything about the case off the top of my head. Send me the factual basis of what's going on. I'm assuming that got referred over to BPBR, Professional Business and Regulation, is what I'm guessing. But send us the circumstances. Let's run it down and figure out what we can find out. And I'll make sure that somebody gets back with you. We'll at least try and know what's going on.
This a question from X again. Yeah. Do you want us to report to ICE or to Walton County Sheriff's Office? Like, if there's a situation, should they first report to ICE? I don't know what situation they're actually referring to, so it's a little bit difficult. By the short version of whatever your issue is, you can always call the sheriff's office first, and we'll try and get you to the right location, depending on what that is, depending on what the actual circumstances is. Michelle Kitch, and this may be something that we come back to later on, and we can kind of get a more in-depth answer, but she's asking, I was wondering if you could break down your budgets for me on a simple scale. What's your budget for fire? How many fire stations do you have, and how many fire employees? What is your sheriff's office budget? And then what is the sheriff's side? What is their budget? What's your jail budget? And what is your budget for animal control? So that's a lot of questions to ask.
Let's see if I can do it. Let's see. Do I?
And she's asking if you could do it off the top of your head.
Yeah, well, I'll do it. Let's see how my memory is. So roughly about 105 million, give or take, roughly 20. The way you can always think about this is generally 90% of all costs are personnel costs, by and large.
And when you say personnel costs, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's the salaries, insurance, benefits, all those types of things. There is about 14, 15 fire stations north of the bay. There is roughly 25 million in fire rescue, give or take. We're 33% of the county's budget, so that kind of tells you ballpark where you're at. Animal control.
Overall, we're 33%.
Yeah, we're overall 33, roughly 33% of the total county budget. Where are we at? There's 20 million. So roughly, because I have my capital all together. When I say capital, like for instance, an ambulance is say $500,000, give or take. So an ambulance or a ladder truck, which is $1 million, or a patrol deputy's vehicle, let's just say in general is 50 some odd thousand. I kind of lump all those together because I'm buying them at one time. Or if I'm building a fire station, or we are building a fire station, like we've got one going in Glendale right now. That one was give or take $4 million, give or take. We've got one that is about to start construction that we budgeted in Bruce. So I would say, because I don't want to break out 911 communications out of all that too, but just kind of the short version, the largest part of it for sure is going to be personnel. The biggest lump sums are going to be capitals, i.e. vehicles and buildings. What else? She was asking everything.
She was also asking what the budget for animal control is, and
give or take.
And she also asked
the jail roughly, call it 20 million. The operations. So it's 2040, give or take 45 million for law enforcement operations. Communication, which is
No, she also
you
asked,
could actually. This is actually all on. It's printed out in the public, so you can kind of pull it up and
We
look
have
at
an
the clerk. You can look at the clerk's site. You can look at our website.
we have an
Yeah, pretty
annual
much, yeah.
report on our
Yeah.
website, and it
It
does
shows
lay
it
it
all
all
listed
out.
out there,
Your
yeah. She was asking how many fire rescue personnel.
Yes, Chief Pugh just reached out because he's very in tune.
Right.
He said we have 165 fire employees.
Yeah, 165 fire employees. There you go. Roughly 235 patrol deputy, or not patrol deputy, law enforcement deputies. Roughly 100 jail staff. Roughly 45 dispatchers. Roughly 25 at animal services. Where am I at? Who am I forgetting off the top of my head?
I think
I hit most of it.
I think you hit most of it.
Yeah, it's roughly about 678 FTEs, full-time equivalency positions, so give or take.
We're pushing 700 employees at the sheriff's office here.
Right. Good.
If you go to waltonso.org, Michelle, and you go under the About section, the annual report is there. And
It's listed in there.
We publish it every year.
That's pretty good from memory, though, if I'm being honest. I think I'm not bad.
I think
That's not bad.
it's exceptional from memory.
Yeah.
I would have to take out a calculator. So I'm moving on to, there's a lot of people thanking us for what we do. John said that was the best answer ever about the cameras for traffic control and observing. Bravo. And he said, James Pittman said that they're being very active in the Mossy Head area right now, especially. Don Britcher is asking who handles Buckeye Street in their district. I gotta admit, I'm gonna have to take out my handy dandy mapping
Let me do a quick
and see where Buckeye Street is, and it's in James Pittman's district because
he's already on it. He's
already on
it. I guarantee he's already on it.
because that is in District 1, which is Highway give or take Rock Hill Road north. That is District 1. South of Rock Hill Road to Highway, or even the bridge really is going to be District 2. And then the south end is split into 3 and 4. All right. Natalia Adams, my neighbor is copying the behavior of Nanny Doss, the serial criminal. She bothers the other neighbors and is a nuisance. What can be done about that?
So nuisance is kind of a broad term, right? And it just depends what she's actually doing. What I probably need you to do to kind of be a little more specific, go ahead and email into it. We'll get it to the right district lieutenant and probably a patrol sergeant, somebody to get in contact with you. And just let's talk about it and figure out what's going on and where we can mediate some of this. And maybe there may be some things that are code violations. There may be something that are criminal violations. There may be something we just don't like, but we can't do anything about. So I can't tell you for sure without somebody looking at it. So go ahead and email us and let's find out.
Austin Clay, what state do you think produces the most violent crime from out-of-town visitors?
What state produces the most violent crime? I don't think I could venture a guess. I don't know that I would venture a guess to that.
And we don't have stats from every state either.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was a generic question to ask, but I don't know. I don't know that I would. All right, I wonder if he's asking what's people coming here.
Oh,
is that what he's asking?
That might be why. Yes. What state produces the most violent crime from out-of-town visitors who visit Walton County? That may be what he's asking.
Okay, yeah, I got you. That's a good question.
Wow, I had to wrap my head around that one.
Yeah, it'd take a minute.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, I don't know. That's we don't track it quite like that. It's just so hard. It's so hard to say. I mean, and then because what I tend to remember is the big ones, right? I remember the shooting in Sandestin. I tend to those kind of an ag assault from somebody. They're just specific things that I remember like that. So I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know that I can give you a fair answer to that.
Wolfgang DeWitz has a great question. What's going on with the electric dirt bike laws? If I have a pedal kit on my bike, am I okay? We've had e-bike questions like this. I think we're working on some educational stuff.
Yeah, it really has to do with the brake power of the e-bike. Where it can and can't be ridden from that standpoint. I know the county's looking at some potential ordinances, but it may be superseded by state law, quite frankly. So I don't know that they can do a whole lot with it, but we're waiting to see. So I know they're working on that now. So if you have some comments on it, you might want to contact your county commissioner and just let them know where you come down on it. And it's a little similar. I had a gentleman who's extremely irate because of regular bicycles driving on the roadway, or driving in the bike lane, stopping traffic, or on the roadway like in 38. So why don't they use the bike path? And he really could not understand that I couldn't force people to use the bike path. It doesn't matter. Again, it's a little bit like power. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. This is the law. You cannot force somebody to use certain things like that. But that didn't satisfy, wasn't satisfied with that. But the people that make those decisions are your legislative bodies, your county commissioners, and your state legislators. So I would say just email them whatever your opinion on the e-bike part of it. Go ahead and let them know where you stand on it.
Okay. Chuck Helton Jr., with open carry now, does that give deputies the right to demand an ID without the carrier being suspected of a crime?
So the firearm in itself does not. The rules for demand ID are what's generally referred to as a investigatory stop or a Terry stop. You'll hear that term used a little bit. Nothing about that changes. There's no change in that contact law. Does it bring a heightened sense of risk at 2 o'clock in the morning if I stop you and I see a pistol on you? Yeah, I mean, clearly it would. However, at the same time, it doesn't change the legality of what I can do. So,
okay.
Time and place that are reasonable, or do I have the authority to demand your ID? That's kind of the short version.
Yeah.
But I want to. I just need to caveat this because I'm sure we're gonna walk around. If we're in a time and a place, and I said, "Hey, the deputy asked for your ID," and you go, "I'm not giving you your ID," and you're strapped with a gun, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're making me uncomfortable too. So keep in mind, they have the same right to defend themselves that you have. I think people
right.
I think people forget that sometimes.
Yes. I think it's also unfortunate, and I might be stepping out on a limb, that people think that they're allowed to treat a government employee any way they want.
Well, they can.
And and that should not be reciprocated.
Yeah. Sure. No. I mean, we get that a lot. We have people that
I can cuss you.
Out. Yeah, I can cuss you out, but if the deputy said "darn" too loud, I want the report fired. And listen, technically, legally, is that correct? You say, yeah, absolutely, within reason. Yeah. So it's just part of what we sign up for. But I think, I don't do this because I don't think it's right. But there's been many, many, many times, and we've talked about this, where we wanted to release camera what people really acted versus what they were saying online, where they called, and the way that I think if people saw the way sometimes people acted, you would hope it would bring some level of self-reflection on it. But I'm not even sure about that anymore. Not always the case. Yeah.
Rachel Leanne Emerson wants to know if the open carry affects people with an out-of-state license.
No, it doesn't have any effect on.
The only thing that affects you open carrying in the state of Florida now is if you're legally allowed to carry a weapon.
Correct.
If you're 18 years or older, if you're not.
No, and 21 or older.
Or 21 or older, I'm sorry.
Handgun. Yes, there's different rules on the age.
If you're
not a convicted felon.
If you're not a convicted felon, if you're of sound mind.
Of sound mind, correct. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter where you.
Yep.
If you come from Alabama and you come into the state of Florida, you can open carry.
Listen, I was telling this story about being in Freeport. You and I were talking about this probably a year or so ago. It wasn't that long ago. And
at Publix.
A gentleman,
in your gym clothes.
A gentleman walking out with a firearm strapped to him, and people were having the citizens. I mean, I probably had at least 10 stop me walking in as I was walking into Publix to please do something about it. So I know for a while we're going to get those calls, and people say, ma'am, that's the way it is. That's the law in Florida. You can do that. So I understand that, and there'll be people that want to do every day to show you that they have a gun. That's just life. Some people shouldn't wear yoga pants, but it happens.
Hello, Sheriff Adkinson and Corey. Your deputies are doing a great job deciphering the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Laura Lee Sparks says she wanted to give a shout out to Captain Wheatley and the crisis intervention team training that was put together last month. Incredible work. We appreciate you, Laura, for coming in and teaching during that. she has spoken to a lot of people who have participated, and they got a lot of value out of it.
She's that team is doing a great job, and that program's going to expand over the next few years. That's a great example of something where we actually have more money to do more with that program, but we just need to make sure we're doing it right so we don't throw money away.
Thoughtfully and intentionally.
Thoughtfully and intentionally the way we grow it. I could go spend, the state would give me another $1 million to expand it tomorrow, but I need to make sure we do it right. So we're just trying to be thoughtful and intentional about it.
Chris Henderson, Sheriff Adkinson, do you see the state of Florida doing away with background checks on firearm purchases if you possess a concealed weapon permit like the state of Alabama does?
I actually think, probably I could see that happening. They still do background checks on cops, so you can be a police officer, a deputy sheriff actually working. They still got to go. You're still waiting 3 days, doing all that. So I would think that if you have I could see that happening. Yes, the short version of that.
Joseph Paul says, hello, boss.
Hey, JP.
Hey, you. Leah Levins, what protection do we have for firefighters and medic staff that go into unknown and possibly dangerous situations daily? Are they able to be armed since the uptick of open carry will rise?
It will. No, the problem there, we got kind of a couple of problems there, right? Because we're introducing a firearm to it as well. Just from the safety of the environment where they're at, there's a lot of different things going on. It is a tough situation. That's why we try very hard with our fire rescue staff, where possible, to make sure it's seen as secure. That doesn't always happen. I mean, let's be honest for a second. We've had a lot of our firefighters physically have to fight off, people under the influence or just resistive, combative. It's a tough situation. It's a tough job, and our job to try and make them as safe as we can. I can't eliminate all risk, and it becomes an issue of, at some point, do you create more of a risk than you're solving? If that makes any sense at all. But it's a tough job, and look, I put Walton County Fire Rescue at the top of the food chain. I have an opportunity to meet and interact with fire chiefs from across the state, and really people that I know from across the country. I like where we're going. I like what our staff is doing, and Walton County is blessed with some good folks that are dedicated.
In a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, and just really a bright future. So.
Gavin Spain, what are the county lines for your county?
So we run 65 miles north and south, which is from the Alabama line at Paxton and up around Darlington, if you're familiar with just those communities, to
the
Gulf of Mexico. On east and west, Gulf of America. Thank you for correcting me. So that's north and south. East and west at the south end of the county is right at what you're going to call the Okaloosa, right before you get to Grand Boulevard in Okaloosa, that's technically Destin, I think, at that area right there. They're going to cut. It's not actually
past Silver Sands. You're looking at Holiday Road is almost to the Okaloosa County line.
It is right about just about past that. So
if you've gone to Bass Pro Shops, you're in Okaloosa.
Yeah, if you're in Bass Pro, you're in Okaloosa. On the east side, it's Lake Powell. You hit Lake Powell there, you're getting into Bay County. So on the east and west side, on Defuniak Springs, it's going to be just past Mossy Head. Just past, on the east side, just past Ponce de Leon. You're into Walton County, and on the far west side, just past Mossy Head, a few miles past Mossy Head.
I think Jail is speaking about South Walton Fire, but he said amazing fire station at Geronimo Street. When is that expected to go live? That is South Walton Fire.
South Walton Fire District.
They're south of the bay, the Choctawhatchee Bay. So everything south of the bay is South Walton Fire District. They do EMS and fire south of the bay. So that is their fire station. I'm actually not sure when it's supposed to go live.
They had a good event. The run was today, wasn't it? No, when did they?
This morning, yes.
So South Walton
had a
9/11. A 9/11 run this morning as well. Pretty well attended.
And they've done that every year. Sammy Sanchez organizes that, and they run some of them run in their full gear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do that from the park under the bridge to our substation and then back. Lauren Van Pelt, is it appropriate for deputies to engage in a high-speed pursuit of a stolen car just because it's a stolen car? It risks the lives of everyone on the road just to recover a piece of property. What is your pursuit policy?
Yeah, so it's not, the way we view the stolen cars a little bit differently. A lot of it here's the short version, it depends, right? So if we know it's a 15-year-old kid that stole from his parents, no. but when you start stealing cars, you're a felon. And if we don't know who you are and you're running, and I let you get away, and they committed a robbery, a burglary, a murder, and you can say you knew that they had to steal, you can go to prison for that. So you're telling me that you wouldn't chase him. So conditions matter, circumstances matter. So the watch commanders have approval to pursue, authorize, or terminate pursuit based on road conditions, circumstances. So absolutely, yes.
I don't
And
think.
so if you let me caveat that. So if you're at the highway patrol, for instance, they can pursue for traffic violations. I mean, we can too. It's just a decision. You have to make a decision. There's a time and a place that the speed and the circumstance, i.e. the traffic on the road, is too much, and we're not going to do it. So you just have to base it on what the circumstances are.
I think too, it's really, really unreasonable to think that every situation doesn't have varying circumstances.
Yeah.
Every single situation is so different, and there's so many things taken into account in a short amount of time to determine. Yeah,
rarely is it somebody. Pretty rarely is it somebody just stealing a car. There's a little bit more going on to that, except in those situations where, hey, I loaned it to my friend now it's stolen. That's those kind of things we're not necessarily going to pursue for, right? Or it's somebody's kid that we know that.
Yeah. Brian Campbell wants to know if Walton County Sheriff's Office can give tickets around Site C6 because it's federal property.
Yeah, we have an agreement with. Yes, we have mutually. Short versions, yes. I could get into explaining why, but yes, you can make arrests out there. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Concurrent jurisdiction was what I was looking for. That was the word my mind was not.
Concurrent jurisdiction.
Yeah, I was not. We have a great relationship with those folks out there, but I literally cannot pull that word up to save my life.
Christine Bacon wants to say thank you to crime prevention specialist Ted Toady for taking the time to explain his job. We need those guys and gals, agree. Ted's also working a lot with the seniors. Who are our vulnerable population in Walton County.
And we just expanded our crime prevention specialists, doing more in districts because it was Ted and Toady and Lieutenant Wendell were really just getting overwhelmed. There was just so much going on that it was just.
Well, there's a lot of opportunity too.
The requests are pretty extensive from the community, which is good. We want to provide.
Yeah. So when we talked about the animal shelter being number 2 on the list of euthanized animals, Captain Hogaboom said that we had a bad outbreak of Panluke multiple times. That's something that can't be controlled when the public doesn't vaccinate their animals. We've had many aggressive dog cases turned in that were left no choice. And we can't adopt aggressive animals that have bit a child. Number 2 in the state, she can't say, but she lets, and all of them, Patty, all of them at the animal shelter, they let scared dogs sleep in their office to decompress.
She doesn't, Angie, you don't have to defend what you do with it. You trust me. I know what kind of job you guys
and they
are
are
doing
working hard over there. We have the prison program, a partnership with the Department of Corrections to train animals to try to make them more adoptable.
And I didn't even take it that the lady was implying. I think what she was saying, hey, are you open to? Sometimes you will get an outbreak. So for 2 days, could you have been? Yeah, maybe. So there's circumstances, but nobody at the shelter needs to justify to me the job that you guys do with the heart and soul of doing it under really not great circumstances. That's a tough place to do.
And I always say, it's easy to kind of make assumptions and be critical from the outside. They are always looking for volunteers. If you don't know something or you want to learn more about something, go try to learn about it and get behind the walls.
And again, I didn't take it that I don't think that was meant as a critique. I think she read something, and that's maybe.
I'm stating that as like a broad thing. Like if you want to know more about those people and learn.
It's kind of like it's kind of the way I feel about dispatch. Everybody thinks they can do it until they get a dose of it. Dispatch is. And we can't let everybody in dispatch. It doesn't work quite like that. It's actually easier for you to ride in dispatch than it is to go sit. Ride with a deputy than it is to sit in dispatch. But those folks do an amazing job too.
Yeah. Loretta wants to know how she can talk to you in person or on the phone. How can somebody go about doing that?
Just call the office, request. Here's my only caveat I always try and say, because I get this actually quite a bit, where people call and it's something a first year deputy could handle, right? And I get so many people that call. We try to say, look, can somebody help you with whatever this issue is? And have you allowed everybody to try and help you resolve it? But it's not uncommon for me to call and somebody will tell me, they'll call and say, well, I'm having this problem with a neighbor. I say, well, have you talked to a deputy? No, I want to talk to the sheriff. And I can appreciate that, but I get a lot of calls. So we try, and here's what's ultimately going to happen. I'm going to call a deputy or sergeant and say, hey, can somebody help? One thing about it, I guess, is American way. We won't go all the way to the top, right? But there has to be a little bit of balance to that. So, try to allow somebody to resolve. If you have a call and you haven't even spoken to a supervisor, really need to try and do that first, because I'm not going to know anything about your call. Hundreds and hundreds, actually tens of thousands of calls come in the organization, and I don't know them all. I don't even pretend to know them all. Give a deputy a chance or a supervisor a chance to resolve it. Again, we're almost 700 employees.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people that I only want to talk to the sheriff. I pay your salary, and I want to talk. And I can appreciate that. But there's also an equal responsibility to make sure the organization runs efficiently. So, just try to give them opportunity. If it's something, we try and do this thing where if people want to come in and they just want to speak, absolutely, we'll try and do that for you as well too. A lot of times, people will also not this individual. I'm not saying that about her, but we'll get people that shop. If you've already got to the major of operations, the captain's told you something, the major of operations told you something, and the undersheriff's told you, trust me, it's not going to change when you get to me. And in fact, I probably won't meet you at that point because you've probably become argumentative, right? So if those people can't resolve your problems with that, then you're probably not going to get a different answer with me. And sometimes, I know this is a really hard thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Sometimes the answer is just no. The answer is just no. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do that. And it has to stop somewhere. A decision has to be made sometimes.
Yeah. Sean McGarry, a very similar question to Loretta Martinez from earlier. I called the office today about an unlicensed contractor that's done work on my home and took the money and ran off. I did talk to a deputy about it today and was told he'd get back to me, and I'm still waiting on a call.
He just took it today?
Yes.
So you probably need to call BPPR.
DBPR?
Yeah, I can never say that right.
I hate that abbreviation.
Yeah, so typically what they'll do is they'll run that up to our investigative unit. So if he took the report today, he has to the end of his shift to finish it, Sean. And so what he would do is refer that, probably going to, she or he, whoever the deputy was, may have tried to reach out to the contractor to start with. If they don't get an answer in a day or two, they're probably going to refer that over to an investigator in office. But go ahead and shoot an email over to us, and I'll see that it's followed. Make sure that it's followed up with. But that's normally, so they might not call that day. Probably the next day or the day after, because they're gonna have to try and reach out and touch some of these people. And that's probably going to end up with an investigator, if I'm betting. These issues with unlicensed contractors and contractors, we're dealing with them just literally all the time. And a lot of the contractors say, look, it's a civil matter, and some say, no, it's a criminal matter, and we just have to kind of wade into it and see where they stand. But go ahead and email it. If you've got a case number, just send it in to our PO, and we'll get it to the right person, and I'll make sure that it's followed up with.
Okay.
And so just so you know, kind of, if you get this, if you're an investigator, the Walton County Sheriff's Office, our rule is that there must be contact made by an investigator inside of 3 days with the complainant. So if you're not getting a call from an investigator, attempt to call investigator in 3 days, that's outside of what we do.
Sorry guys, I'm trying to sift through. There's a lot of conversation having, and I can see all of it. So just keep in mind.
Trying to find the questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to find questions like direct to us. Gavin wants to know, do you have to have a tag? Do you have to have a plate for a golf cart to be driven on the road?
Yes.
We don't like to call them golf carts here.
Vehicle. They're not golf cart. They're not a golf cart. If it's driven on the road, it must be a low-speed vehicle that looks suspiciously like a golf cart, except it has a tag, lights, seat belt,
blinkers,
yeah,
windshield,
yeah, those things,
etc. Is there a maximum speed limit on multi-purpose paths?
There is, and I don't know what it is.
We'll get back to you, Christine. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. You stumped me.
Faith Hardy.
I got the budget question. I thought that was pretty good.
It was. How dare you not know the maximum speed limit? Right. Thank you for your dedication in our community. Jolene says, that's my sheriff. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to find questions. Nick McMillan. Thank you, Nick. Coming to the rescue.
He ought to know about
28
these
miles per hour with a pedal assist. So thank you, Nick. It's just saved in the nick of time. In the nick of time.
Yep. I'll say I like he did that.
It's a dad joke.
I lived it.
Nobody got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Lavette Wright. There was video testimony in court where the sheriff told him to kick the door in. The man hadn't lived there or received mail there for over 2 years. Why would you do that?
Video testimony. I don't know the last time I've been in court with video testimony about me telling somebody to kick a door in. Now, I've kicked a few doors in my time, and I've told people to kick a door in once or twice, but I don't remember being in court in any way, shape, or form involving that. So you have to provide a little more information. Are you sure you're not confusing it with a deputy?
Yeah.
You may be talking about a deputy and not me.
And we have
a bunch
of those.
Could have been a firefighter. Told a firefighter to kick a door in. You never can tell.
Randy Avery, Officer Yost, I believe, helped me retrieve a stolen utility trailer. Super professional and a great role model for the younger generation coming up. Yep. If you ever decide to buy that man lunch, it's on me. From Alabama. I actually started posting a series of videos of Deputy Yost. And I'm actually not sure if Randy's talking about Tisha or
so
Craig.
There's two. So
they're both amazing people, and they're married to each other. And I've actually started posting a series of body camera videos of Craig because he's literally a gazelle and can chase anybody and catch them.
He's pretty fast.
He's very, very fast.
Speedy.
Sorry, I'm trying to come up with a bunch. We have a lot of really nice comments. Thank you for answering my question.
It's nice when people wave with all their fingers and all their comments are nice. Yeah.
Who came up with the school programs in the jail in Walton County, and how can we donate to its fund? I think it's great, like the ones that got their CDL. I'm so glad you brought that up, Mr. Dunaway, because I was super pumped to see that post where Ajaya got her CDL, has over 80,000 likes on Facebook. Fabulous. Insane. And what's so great about those programs is they are not funded with taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, right.
They're inmate welfare funds. Yeah. So what that means is the inmate's cantina, their commissary, all of that goes into that fund, and that's how it's paid. Yeah. So we have a lot of people
and that was a philosophical decision we made a few years ago where we said, look, we have people, I don't know if you remember, we have people very upset about how dare you teach, an inmate to be a welder or a commercial driver. Or one of the other things I really like we do heavy equipment operator, right? But there's people waiting to hire those inmates when they graduate now. And my point has always been this. I can make a moral argument. I think it's the right thing to do. Because if you can break a generational curse, if you can help somebody get out of addiction, if you can help somebody get some ambition, they get a job, whatever it is, if they get a GED and that starts, get a driver, whatever it is, then they don't come back, right? So I make a moral argument that's the right thing to do. But if that doesn't work for you, I'll make a fiscal argument. It's expensive to hold people in jail. And so if I can prevent you from coming back, we save money. So any way we do it, I think that's the right approach. Everywhere we can, we just try a little better. Can't let perfect be the enemy of better. The other version of that is if you want to donate to a particular program, what you can do is send that to WCSO and earmark it for jail programs. You say, I want it spent on jail programs, and we'll make sure that that's where it's put into.
I have a follow-up question to Lavette Wright's comment about kicking in the door. Can deputies pull up land surveys from their vehicles? Can they do that?
Yeah, you can go to certain vehicles, but you have to be careful with that. The accuracy of those things can be a little sketchy. Okay. You have to know they're not.
Okay. She said your officers like to give input and make decisions on civil matters when they don't know anything about it.
Well, we like to be, I think you left out part of that, which people like to ask us to have inputs and call us to resolve problems that they can't resolve themselves. And as long as we side with you, it was the right decision and we're well educated and should have done it. If we don't do what you want us to do, then we're just over-abusing our authority. There's a little balance to this, ma'am. You clearly didn't come down on the issue or the side that you wanted, but that doesn't mean they were wrong. By the way, it doesn't mean they were right either. So not trying to be ugly, but you're playing it both ways, and I'm not here for it. So what else you got?
Do you have any deputy or employees that can outrun Deputy Yost in full uniform? No. I'll make a bet. You think Allie could?
She got those.
I got some faith in Allie now.
She can get with it.
But Deputy Yost, I'm telling you, he's a gazelle. The man can book.
Are we talking obstacles or just?
No, I
Coon
think just
can
a
run.
straight race.
Coon can
I think just a straight.
Coon-
Darren,
Coon-
you're going to cause a stir
Coon
here.
can run too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We might have a little something going on there.
Maybe we got to set
Although
up a
I
race.
think that course record is not. I don't think Yost owns that course
Well,
record.
I meant to
think
talk to
Tosin-
you about that. We kind of need to update.
Yeah,
those.
I think.
I don't think they've been updated in a few years. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
whose
That's a good.
responsibility
You might set something off.
Darren, you've started something here.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would put my money on Greg. I'd put my money on Greg. And
maybe.
it also depends on the length of this run.
Yeah.
You know, some people are good sprinters.
Yeah.
Long distance, not so much.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're gonna have to set some
Let's see
limitations
what time
here.
that is.
Another question: why are your programs at the jail centered around men, mostly white, and not even compared to women?
Because the majority of jail is white and men in the Walton County Jail. Walton County is almost 94% white. So consequently, the majority of the jail population ends up being white here. Additionally, nationally, and I'm speaking in general terms, nationally, men, 90% of the time of the population are men because they tend to be more violent. So there's the short version. Here's the maybe a little extended version of that is we try very hard to get programs, you actually made a very biased statement. Why are the programs for men? They're not for men. The commercial driver is for men and women. The heavy equipment driver is for men and women. You made the assumption that it was only for men, ergo exposing a bias. So just FYI, it's there. It's just there's not that many female inmates in there comparatively. I'm being somewhat facetious, but that's the short version.
Well, and the other thing too, the inmates have to be vetted. They have to fit a certain criteria, and they have to be willing.
You have to be willing, sure.
Our first forklift operators class was women.
But look, the majority of all prisoners are men. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Mike Smith, you've been an amazing sheriff. My question is, how much longer will you bless us? Rumors are that you're leaving soon.
I'm getting to be an old man. I feel old. I feel old.
Stop.
I feel old. Listen, here's the truth. No one individual is bigger than the organization, never has been, never will be. And our responsibility in leadership here is to prepare the next generation of leaders. So regardless of when that is, that people are capable, and ultimately the citizens in this county get to decide. This is not a monarchy. This is not a direct hire. So, when that time comes, I assure you this, there are men and women here that are capable of leading and going to do a much better job than I will when that time comes. So, how you like that for walking around the tree without saying anything? Typical politician, right?
Troy Dibble. Can deputies enforce traffic laws within Hammock Bay subdivisions, or is that considered private property?
Any road that's open to they've turned that over, so Walton County, yes, can do it inside of Hammock Bay.
Great question from.
But that's not. I want to be real clear. But I need to caveat that that's not every private subdivision. They have to turn the roads over to us and work out an arrangement for those kind of things. So,
I have a great question from YouTube, and it looks like ELT is the user on YouTube. Does open carry imply that a firearm can be seen from the outside of a vehicle, or do they still need to be encased out of view inside a car?
I think we're going to have to work all that out. My assumption, as I currently read it right now, is that it would no longer have to be encased like that. But I need to work that out, and I'll check with the attorneys and double check that. So stand by for an additional. But that would be my position today, because it seems pretty open. If you can wear it on your person, it is what it is.
Yeah. Claire Go Marie said, just wanted to come on here and say I'm thankful for everything the sheriff's office has done for my dad and my family. That's Clarice. Hi, Clarice. Hey. Clarice, I'm so glad to see your name pop up. So we have not been on since Deputy May was killed. Right. And we haven't talked about that yet so far. And I think it's something that we're all trying to adjust to. Clarice, you and your family, we think about you guys every single day. But talk a little bit about how that, we talked earlier about, and people are kind of asking that question, how are deputies going to deal with open carry and that sort of thing. And I think everybody needs to be understanding that less than 6 months ago, we had a deputy killed in the line of duty in our county. So our deputies are looking out for one another even more, and they want to go home to their families at the end of the day.
So, I'm going to phrase this correctly. My position on dealing with whether it's open carry or anything like that is, and I said this a minute ago, and I'll kind of rephrase it a little bit, which is nothing about your rights means that a deputy sheriff has to overly endanger themselves. They do not give up the right to defend themselves because they are a deputy, right? We absolutely take more risk and accept that we take more risk. However, you don't have the constitutional right to impose your will onto a deputy sheriff because you're armed or not armed for that standpoint. And in other words, one of the things we deal with a lot is something like, you're not going to arrest me until you tell me why. This is not a discussion. That's not the way this works. And so it's not fair and equal when it comes to those kind of things. And the court has said that because it is inherently a risky business. It's inherently a risky business because we don't know who we're dealing with. And so I understand that our deputies will, in putting themselves in harm's way, they have every right to defend themselves. And I will support their right to doing that as long as I sit in this chair. And I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say about that other than this. If I have one fear in regards to this business that I continue to have every day is that, and I've said this to my training staff in the last week, is that there will be a hesitance to use force when more force is needed. And so, that I have very serious fears about that. I have for a while. Will's situation made it even, Will's murder made it even more so. And he the truth is there's nothing he could have handled that. There's no way he could have handled that thing any better. There's just simply no way. It's a hard business. It's a hard business done by hard men and women sometimes. And people that don't do it have a lot to say about it, typically behind a keyboard. But quite frankly, I just don't give a damn. So. Yeah. Sorry.
Clarice, really glad to hear from you.
It's good to hear from you, kiddo.
Sam Bailey, is ICE going to continue ramping up activity in Walton County? I think you answered this earlier. That was a question that needs to be directed to them.
I don't, and two things I have to be careful about that. One, if they're having an operation for the safety of their staff and well-being, I can't comment on when their operations are going to be ongoing. And two, it is their operations when they do that, so I want to be a little careful about that. I don't want to put somebody at risk.
Rachel Herrick, I've heard some talk about potential human trafficking being investigated here locally. Is there any truth to this?
We, from time to time, investigate different cases that meet the criteria of human trafficking. So, yes. It's probably the easier way. It's kind of a more general way of answering that.
Sheriff, Hank Dawson, what is the patch on the sheriff's right sleeve?
Oh, it's just a company that provided the shirt. So yeah. Nothing special. Sorry.
We don't endorse or.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, no, it wasn't. I didn't. You know what? I didn't notice it until he just said, like, "Oh, that was something crazy."
The equipment program is fantastic. And I'm sorry, you guys have to understand. I'm getting questions from 3 different platforms: YouTube, X, and Facebook. So I'm catching up. Just let me get there. Mike Smith, I'd also like to know about pay for a deputy. How much do you guys pay for an experienced Leo? I've heard you guys are at the top of the panhandle. And before Sheriff answers, let me just say that for certified law enforcement, we're now offering a bonus of $5,000. Got to give a shout out to HR because I would be remiss if I didn't mention that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're doing a great job.
So for people who are law enforcement certified, they're offering a $5,000 bonus. We're offering a $5,000 bonus to certified detention deputies and dual certified firefighter paramedics. They're all getting a $5,000 bonus right now.
Correct.
So
So the short version is that you're paid on a scale based on your experience up to a certain level. So depending where you came from and what your year of experience is, we put you on a start of our starting pay scale, which is now like a patrol deputy works more than 2,000 hours. They work over 2,100 hours because of built-in overtime. So that looks like 61 and some change on a patrol deputy. But let's just say you had 5 years experience or 10 years experience, you would come in at whatever, step 10, step 7, whatever that step is that we've set up. So I think, right now we're trying to be very competitive. The goal over the next year is to have those starting salaries all at $60,000 without overtime included. So like right now it's $58,000 without the patrol overtime. The goal over this next year is to get it to $60,000 before the overtime's included. But that's where we're at. And yeah, we do pay for experience. We do match. So you really need to email HR, fill out your application, let them look at it, and they'll say, hey, this is where we're at. And if you're coming from out of state, there's another $5,000 the state of Florida's matching. So you're potentially talking about $10,000 bonus depending where you're at to start. There's also, we do a lot of incentive-based pay, so like a fitness incentive up to $2,400 a year. Education incentive is, we're talking about, I think, doubling that, which is like $2,000 a year. And like FTO or SWAT, all of those are incentive-based pays. So yeah, you can do pretty well with
that. Jacob Woodham has a question,
Okay.
and I think you might have been briefed on this case, but I can't remember. So we're gonna have to. I want to ask this question though. Why was Angelo Britton not charged when caught with child exploitation material previously? And if I'm not mistaken, Britton was the one that we just arrested not long ago. And I want to verify this. He was arrested by an investigation done by the Defuniak Springs Police Department for victimizing a child under the age of 12.
Okay.
And I know from having a conversation with our cybercrimes unit that Britton was brought before the Standards Commission and lost his standards because he was previously a Department of Corrections employee. Mm-hmm. So there was some ramification. There was a case done previously that made him lose his standards. Mm-hmm. So, Jacob, I really want to get you the answer to this question. I would be remiss if I said that yes, he was investigated previously, but I don't know the circumstances around it.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not familiar with the case. You're going to have to send me. You have to send the information. When you get you
but Jacob, I'm happy to put you in touch with someone who can answer those questions for you, because I know there was a case open on him previously.
It was a city case.
It was our case.
Our case previously. Okay.
It was our case.
Does he have a city case now?
The most recent arrest for victimizing a child under 12 was the city's arrest. It was the city of Defuniak.
So what is he asking? Why?
Why, when we arrested him, when we investigated him previously, that he did not serve time, that he wasn't.
Yeah, that'd be a decision made by a judge or the state's attorney. That's not the sheriff's office. But we can get an answer. We'll figure out what that is.
Okay, I think we're pulled up. Christine Bacon has another question. The multi-purpose paths are on private property, so should the HOA create a policy for electric bikes, or do they fall under the city or the county?
Yeah, they're going to be. They're actually the multi-purpose paths typically are. Is she talking about somewhere specific?
Hammock Bay.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Okay, that's a little bit different situation. That would probably be with your HOA. Side. But unless it was one, the reason I said that because some of the multi-use paths are in the county right away. Mm-hmm. But if they didn't specifically turn that over to the county, then it would be up to the HOA to decide how they're going to handle it, because that's still private property.
Okay.
That took a second to think that one out.
Gavin wants to know if a disabled person could apply to be a dispatcher.
Yes.
Okay. And I think we're caught up on questions. I think we've covered. So if you're still tuning in and you asked a question about the new open carry, or please go back to the beginning. We addressed that in the beginning at length. And I just want you to kind of wrap up with what we talked about today and what we've addressed today, and anything that you want to talk about. I need to bring up one thing because I got asked to. Walton County Fire Rescue has a cadet program, and that program is growing rapidly.
Yes.
And what a cadet is basically a high school age student who comes in and they train like firefighters, awesome. And it's super cool.
Captain McEllier is heading that up, right? TJ,
did you? He's a chief, I think.
Chief, sorry.
Chief McEllier.
That won't reflect the check.
But he's doing a great job, and he does that aside from his, he volunteers that. Yeah. We have a page on our website that explains a little bit more about it. It's expanding. We would like more kids to get involved. So if you have a high school age student
or Explorer program on the deputy side, so we have both. So
who doesn't know what they want to do but kind of wants to test it out, we encourage you to reach out to us. Like I said, there's a post 850 cadet page on our website, and there's a 112 post for the Explorer side on our website. We just love to reach out. They've had excellent finishes at the last couple of competitions that they've been to, top 10 finishes, top 5 finishes, and they're accepting applications to that program. So
yeah, very cool.
So will you wrap up with kind of what we talked about today? We talked about a lot.
So much.
Just summarize.
It's okay. So, obviously we kind of briefed on open carry, which is the short, easy version of that, we're going to comply with the law. We're not going to be currently making arrests for open display of firearms within the legal limitations of places that you're allowed to carry those firearms. Good Lord, what else did we talk about? We talked about bike path. We talked about
talked about Charlie
Kirk's murder. We've spoken about. Gosh, there's a lot of different stuff across the way. I think we mentioned, because I want to come back from the jail side. We talked about some of the programs that are going on there, which I think are great, and I'm glad to hear that you, the public, are supportive of that. We talked about our fire stations going up in Glendale is finally starting to make, after $500,000 in change orders, which I'm not pleased with, but that's here and there. It's finally getting red iron up, and that thing's being built. That's at Highway 2 and County Highway 83. Choctaw is up. Choctaw is open. We're in that. We're going to start clearing at Bruce, close to Bruce on Highway 20. For that, what used to be this currently called the Windswept Station, which has actually been a trailer for almost, probably 17, 18 years. We're going to get those folks out of a trailer, going to have that built this year. So we're excited about that. We didn't mention tell you how expensive it is to run a business. We had 2 ambulances rear-ended, which ends up costing us about $500,000 to get a replacement ambulance, because somebody missed that big red box with the yellow stripes all over it and rear-ended it in lights. But anyway, so I
was thinking we needed like a proximity alert.
I don't know what you
like
can
a
do.
loud sound, or like a flare that goes off if you're coming in too hot into the back of one of those things.
I don't know what you can do with that. And we talked about the podcast that we shot before, which was about the mass shooting of Chilean exchange students in 2009.
And that'll be coming out on the Art of Policing.
That'll come out on our podcast, The Art of Policing, in the next couple of weeks. I was trying to think what else. Any final questions? Anything that come up from your standpoint?
No, I think we covered most of it. I know it's been a while since we've done this. Mm-hmm. It is September 11th, so also want to mention that this is kind of and what I was thinking this morning is, we were so united after that, and
where you're at now. Ooh.
And I just wish we would come back to that in a way. You talked about the Tribes book earlier. By Sebastian Younger. I really think we're better if we just feel like we're united with each other, and I just hope we can return to that.
Yeah, I do too. And again, this polarization is really hurting us as a people. So I laughed because I was thinking, some of the folks, I see them, they ask questions. Some folks have been mad for 20 years about stuff. Get over it. Life's move on. Do something else. Your life's got to be bigger than some of this stuff, and I don't know. I want to be optimistic, and I want to be fruitful about it. So, thank you guys for taking the time on a Thursday to spend time with us and let us know how we're doing and give us some suggestions. We're going to be doing that. We'll